Hi everyone. So we're going to do the intro as fast as possible, and then I'm just going to go right into the VOD review analysis portion of this. I have been motivated enough to play Elden Ring again, which is to say I have been delusional enough to play Elden Ring again, and it's actually been a lot of fun. Well, it's been a lot of fun when I have been winning with casters. So, quickly, Prin's tips for motivation are as follows. If you are losing, win, and if you are winning, lose. Which is a concise way of saying that if you're running a build that's maybe a little off the wall, maybe a little suboptimal for a long period of time, and you're having not a lot of success, maybe consider switching over and playing a build that is pretty good and reliable, that you know works, or is somewhat optimized. I know in this line of work there are a lot of interesting builds out there, and usually what is most interesting is what is least likely to work. I have backgrounds in a lot of different competitive games at this point, so I'm going to be kind of competitive in whatever I do, I think. So I do like to personally win. I like to bring it, as they say. And there are a lot of spells in this game that are not very conducive to bringing it. And I have a feeling that a lot of my colleagues, you all, probably start to feel similarly when things aren't going great. The flip side is that if things are going great and they're going too great, then you can, scale it back or go to the opposite end of the spectrum. This may have to do with the odds of winning. If you are fairly certain that you're likely to win because you're using something that is very strong in order to beat intentionally ganking over-leveled players, then you might start to get bored when you have, a 90% win rate. I can tell you that the win rate for invaders in Elden Ring is probably a lot higher than you think it is. Most players do not know the rules of PvP. And that is another thing that can really tank my motivation. The sensation that I am just washing players that don't know what's going on, because that doesn't feel very good either. I'm not looking to have helpless prey, I'm looking to have opponents. And it tends to be more fun, in my experience, to go in with a powerful build and then scale back my lethality based on the level of experience and resistance that I'm getting. But let me make something perfectly clear. I will not be nerfing myself for anyone, regardless of their experience level. I believe that we owe it to the Elden Ring community to show up and to do a good job as the invader. We are as much a part of the online ecosystem as the blues are, as the overleveled phantoms are, as the hosts are. Frankly, I'm a little disappointed when I get invaded by somebody with an extremely weak build. I believe that we owe it to the hosts of Elden Ring to show up, do a good job, and not roll over and die, though I see many who would. And we also have a right to be kind to players that we might see at mid-level that are really not sure what's going on. I'm talking about the host that was not briefed about PvP by their friend that got them into the game, the friend that probably forgot invasions existed at all, and are just now remembering. But who am I to talk? I've killed that player 100 times over. So yeah, that's how I kind of managed to get some clips together. And then once I am motivated to try something and I'm doing invasions on it, I'll invade with that build for hours and hours and hours. Especially if it's bad, because then I'll just be stuck in this loop of being okay, but I haven't tested it in this kind of situation before. And then I will just run that build through the washing machine of invasions until I hit one that I feel is particularly good or bad. And a lot of the times I have to be doing a lot of damage because I have a limited number of possible plays I can possibly make when I'm running a pure caster, so I can't exactly make the spells hit for, like, no damage, because then I'm never going to get anything done. Alright, let's shift gears to some invasions. I have two players here. One of them is wearing Malenia's armor, so I know that they have been to the end of the game, probably, which means I have to be wary of how much damage they're going to do. I haven't actually been hit by them yet, because I've been relatively careful, and this is a pure Night Mage, so it can be extremely passive. This is at 90 plus 17, by the way, so I don't really care about how much damage I'm doing. The plan is to very simply harass with Night Shard and Night Maiden's Mist, throw out a few magic glint blades, and then double or triple Night Comet. It works for gankers, and it also works for me. Did these players specifically deserve this? No, probably not. In fairness, this is an entirely reasonable reaction to just seeing your friend get two-tapped by a bullet wizard. And I'm about to introduce you to the recurring theme of today, people hiding badly with the Mimic Veil. You really need to know your audience with the Mimic Veil. If they seem like standard co-opers, then you can get away with it. If they're experienced in the ways of PvP, then maybe steer clear of that. Do you ever have an invasion that's just like, yes, this is a masterpiece of invading. I hit all of the beats correctly, I did all of the steps right. I feel like they're usually very infrequent in Elden Ring, but I actually had a fair few of them when I was invading for this video, and I would like to think that this is one of them. I begin in a precarious situation and then have to retreat to what I consider to be a safer zone. And without these more densely populated safe areas, or walls, or something, there's no invading to be done. I mean that if this were an open field and I were in this exact same situation, I would still be in the chase section of the invasion, and they would still be chasing me, and I would probably be trying to get them off of me to have a moment's rest by plinking them with spells, and on these turn and burn attempts, it is very easy to get blown up by getting hit by any stray attack. So your most optimal decision in that instance is to run and keep running until you get to one of those pockets. Can we stop for a moment to appreciate how good my eyes are, by the way? I may not be the best player in the world, but I can definitely tell when somebody has a Mimic Veil on, or Chameleon, or a White Birch Branch. I cannot teach you how to see through illusions, but I think you'll be able to figure it out. Thank Miyazaki for the compass feature, giving you the general location of someone. And since it's pinpoint accurate and the distance is the radius of a circle with you being the center, you can essentially just draw a mental line directly towards your target. In fact, I think Chameleon has never been more useless. For a host, at least. For an invader, it's probably still pretty good. But only in very specific circumstances. By the time I've gotten the information that I want and I make it to the host party, I'm like ready to fight. I'm not looking to like hide in a bush somewhere and do stealth and then like pop out at the right moment, because I just never find that situation to be possible in Elden Ring. But like I said, I'm sure that some instance does exist. I am extremely reluctant to invade anymore without either Gravity Well or Collapsing Stars, because I just find so many situations like this where I am facing a party that is standing on high ground or over a precarious drop. And most good high ground in the game is conveniently positioned over a precarious drop. And even if it isn't, you can use those spells to displace the host and their phantoms from their high ground advantage, which is kind of a big deal. Now, not everything I did was a pure mage. I also worked in some rapiers and some daggers to my sorcery as well to try and alleviate the really bad mind deficiency that you have at everything below meta, which I've said over and over and over again. It's a consistent problem. You can invade without a weapon if you have enough flasks of Cerulean Tears and you're doing a lot of magic damage, or whatever damage type it is, and sometimes you don't want to have to deal with that. Additionally, you also lose the ability to go for backstabs and ripostes, and if you know the ins and outs of fishing for backstabs and you're not too bad at parries, you will realize that this is kind of a big detriment. Even if you're trying to prove something by just using spells and it's like a roleplay build or whatever, you still miss out on a really important aspect of the game, like an entire mechanical element is just removed because you're not using a weapon, and a backstab can be the difference between winning and losing. If nothing else, it will at least make opponents more wary about engaging with you at melee range, something that wizards struggle with. And if they don't respect it, you can keep going for backstabs against any backstabbable animation that you might see. And there are a lot of guaranteed backstabbable animations on decent latency that you can look for, react to, and punish. This includes Moonveil's Transient Moonlight R2 follow-up. However, if you are fighting, even 2 players, the risk that is associated with going for a backstab against a Moonveil is probably not worth the reward. Between the 2 extremes of players not respecting your space at all, and players respecting your space too much, I think I would prefer players not respecting my space at all. And in truth, when I don't have anywhere to retreat to, like here, really, it is the best decision. Something I learned pretty early on was that by setting up magic glint blades, you can get people to just run around you in a circle for as long as you have FP. And magic glint blade costs 12 FP. So for a very long time, you can make a single player dance around you. They don't even have to fully respect the magic glint blade, they can just remember the timing. Or easier still, turn your camera completely away from it and react to the sound effect of it going off. You only have to move very slightly perpendicular to the angle that it's firing at, and you will avoid it. I know I say great things about it all the time, but it's only as good as the player. You do actually have to follow up on the thing to get anything out of it. Terra Magica is a spell that I always keep on me as well, but have become less interested in as time goes on. I suppose that, like, as a space controlling option, it is unique. Once again, it's more of a setup option where it requires you to follow up on it for it to actually get any value. But the value that it provides is enough to warrant me wanting to keep it around. It is utterly useless at close quarters. In fact, going for a Terra Magica gets me killed from time to time. I am so desperate to do enough damage to some of these overleveled phantoms that I will forgo my immediate safety to try and give myself even the smallest benefit. And whether that comes from being able to eliminate the overleveled phantom entirely, or to get rid of their host before they're even a problem, I will be happy to do either. Okay, so Geomancy is coming back in a big way. The builds that in this video I'm using that use the magma spells are actually not good at all. This really bad Int Faith setup that I have at 80 plus 17 is not good, but it's a lot of fun. It has enough intelligence for me to use like Explosive Ghost Flame with a couple talisman swaps, so it can even become like a really bad Necromage if I wanted it to as well, and I've used it that way before. I took this Int Faith back out because I wanted to see if I could make it better, and I kind of did, but only by giving it Stone of Garang and Catch Flame. And then something that I'll do most of the time when I'm playing Elden Ring is I will just turn on the Hunter Ring and I will just leave it on, and then I don't really care what happens if I like step away from my PS5 for a little bit, because if I show up in a world and I'm just like taking up a blue slot, that's beneficial for the invader. And since I know from experience that blues are usually not called in for legitimate reasons, I can take advantage of the system and game it. And then if I am summoned as a blue, and I think the host does need my help, and I think they're a newer player, or I find the invader particularly distasteful, then I can take it upon myself to test them out and see how they do. It's a good observational tool to see what kind of invaders are occupying the bracket just below the one you are occupying. Because hosts are higher level than invaders on average, and blues are higher level than hosts on average, so you will be, 30-ish levels up. So anyway, I figured out that these people here were waiting for blues to show up so the blues and the reds could fight. This host didn't have any interest in fighting, which is fine. So I did a little duel with this red a couple times. 3 times, to be exact. And if they beat me, then they could get to the host. But they only did that once. Even blues are overleveled for their task. But that's all I got. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one. Happy casting!